Hi there, I'm Scott D. Forsyth, professional voice actor and pop culture enthusiast. Today, we're talking about a gaming service I've mentioned on the show a handful of times, the Xbox Game Pass. I'll be going over how you can use Game Pass, why you would want to use it, and why I think it's best of all. But first, let's take a quick break and get right back to the show. So, I've mentioned it a handful of times, but what is Xbox Game Pass? Essentially, it's a subscription service similar to what we have with Netflix or Hulu or HBO. With this, you have access to tons of different games that you can download and play. And there are two different versions, one for consoles, particularly the Xbox family of consoles, and PCs, computers that run like Windows 10 or 11. And initially, it was created to drive the sales of the Xbox One, which was the system that came out around the time as the PS4. I don't exactly know what number generation that was, but that was in like the late 2010s. By 2017, the service had launched, and over the years, they kept adding kind of more benefits to it, such as having first-party titles that would arrive on day one. So, like, if you wanted to play the new Halo game, you could play it the day it came out at no extra cost instead of, buying the game. And currently, at the time of recording, they are developing a way to stream games through the cloud. They have a feature right now where you can play Xbox games on your phone. I'm very interested to see how that works, but I've not done it for myself. And so a lot of you might be thinking, well, that sounds like a pretty, good way to play games, but how many games are there really? Well, there is over 100 games available on the service, and these are really, really good games. Like, there is something for everybody. There is a good selection of like classic games that you want to play, like Gears of War and Fable, which I've just started replaying. I never played that game series, which came out around 2004. Then you have new like modern games like Halo and like Minecraft, which you can play on everything, but like that's a option for you. Or you can play Minecraft Dungeons. So there are so many different ways to play in this service. So I want to go over about 7 games that I recommend in a like slightly rapid fire overview. And I want to do this because some of these games I've talked about either on Best of All or were featured in our Best of the Year series, which you can find on youtube.com/ScottyMeLad. We have a playlist for both Best of All and Best of the Year. But hopefully these are some games that if you want to know more information about it, you can check out these videos. If you're just looking and you're listening to this and you're like, well, what's something this, like, I'm already sold. What's something that I can play immediately? Well, in the very first episode of Best of All, I talked about Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It's one of my favorite video game series. It's a sci-fi role-playing game with a world and cast of characters that you will fall in love with and remember for years to come. And when you play the entire trilogy, all your choices matter in this very grand space opera, similar to Star Trek or Star Wars. In episode 7 of Best of All, I talked about Stardew Valley, a fantastic little cozy game where you live in a small town and run a small farm. The game meets you where you're at, so if you want to build the best, most lucrative farm you can, you have that option. If you just want to explore the town, meet the villagers, get married, start a family, you can do that too. It's truly a game that is tailored to you as a player. Now, as the 2 games coming from our Best of the Year series, my runner-up for Best Game of 2020 was a game called Hades. It is a stellar and stylish action game from Supergiant Games, which is one of my favorite studios, which we'll be talking about sometime soon, that uses Greek mythology and the Greek pantheon in an exceptional way to tell a very compelling story that is so much fun to play. And then, friend of the show and ScottyMeLad crew, Tristan, his best video game of 2019 was Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. With the popularity of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, now is the perfect time to play Jedi Fallen Order. It's an action-adventure game that brings you into a very unique part of the Star Wars universe as you play a Jedi who is on the run from the Empire and the Inquisitors. But I really, really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite Souls games, and I love the different options it has for difficulty. So if you want to make this a hard, like, skill-based game, you can. If you want to make this a fun, enjoyable Star Wars experience, you can do that. It is highly approachable to all types of gamers. So I wanted to, just give a brief look on some of the games that we've talked about over the years. I kind of like looking back and seeing how I've thought about different games that I've talked about on ScottyMeLad, on Best of All, on Best of the Year. Because sometimes my opinion has changed, but not too much. So if you wanted to stop the episode right then, you're like, I'm sold on Game Pass. Those are 4 fantastic games that can hold you over. I don't know, to be honest, if all of them are available on PC and console. They do have different lists, or they do have occasionally different games, because there are certain games that you can only play on a computer with a mouse and keyboard, and there's only games that you can play on a console. But those are 4 great games. But you're like, Scotty, I want to hear something new. I want to hear about 3 games that have been recently released that you have not talked about at all. And I was like, ooh, well, I got you. And we'll talk about that more right after this break. So you've just subscribed to Xbox Game Pass, and you're thinking to yourself, I've played Mass Effect, I've played Stardew, I've played Hades, I've played Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I want to play something new. Preferably a new release that's from an old franchise that I really like, that's been around for years. And I go, oh, what about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge? Now, some of you are going to be like, all right, let me start fast forwarding. No, hear me out. This game absolutely kicks ass. It is a shell of a good time. It is totally modeled and made after old school Ninja Turtle games. It feels like an arcade game. And it's one of those where you move from stage to stage, beating up different enemies and fighting different bosses as the different turtles and other characters in the series as well. With April O'Neil, Master Splinter, who's their little rat dad, and an unlockable character that I don't want to reveal, because when you beat the game, you can play as him. But like, the trailers kind of already showed that. And if you know Turtles, you totally know who this character is. If you are a Turtles fan, you have probably already been playing this. I really like the Ninja Turtles a lot. I am a passive fan, I would say. There's a few series that I grew up with that I really like, and certain little movies I've gone and watched and enjoyed. But this game is just so much fun. The combat feels great. The art style is really, really good. There's so much that you can do that just makes it for such an enjoyable time. And what's really exciting to me is I'm trying to 100% the game. I'm playing it by myself. I'm just leveling up the different characters. I'm finding out who I like the most. My favorite is Michelangelo to play as. My favorite turtle is actually Donatello, but it's hard for me to decide which of the turtles I like the most. But typically Donatello. He's my main one. And yeah, it's just a really solid and fun game to play, and I've just enjoyed it. The music is great. They've got some artists on there, like Mega Ran, who is a wonderful YouTube like internet rapper, and then they also have 2 people from Wu-Tang Clan, which is insane. The whole vibe feels like a Saturday morning cartoon, and it plays like it, and it's such a great time. And it's perfect for Xbox Game Pass because it is a multiplayer game. You can play to up to 6 players, which we've now gone into the age where we can move past 4 players and go into 6, which is insane. It's also available on Switch and other consoles as well, which I do see myself buying it for the Switch and bringing it to parties so that we can all play the arcade mode and try to beat the game in one run. But it's just such a cool surprise and a really, really solid game, and a wonderful addition to Game Pass. As a subscriber, I got to play it, have my fun with it, and then, save it for when friends come over, save it for a rainy day. It is totally perfect for a subscription-based service. I love it. The next game that I want to talk about is a game called Unsighted. Now, you've probably seen this game on a lot of like best of Xbox Game Pass games. That's how I found out about it. And if you are a fan of the 2D Legend of Zelda games, so games where you have to solve puzzles, go into dungeons and fight bosses to get more powerful items, you will really, really like Unsighted. What drew me into it was the gimmick of the game. You play as a robot who is in a post-apocalyptic world where humanity has fallen, they're gone, and only the robots remain. But all the robots have like sentient and conscious life to them, so they act like people. A lot of them look like people. It's very anime aesthetic. Like some of them have different colored hair. There's a big variety and diversity in able-bodied people, non-able-bodied people with prosthetics, people of color. It's really, really, really cool. But the core of the game is this life force that keeps all of the robots running is running out. So literally every single character in the game, including yourself, has a limited amount of time to live. So it's not like player time, like Animal Crossing. Like if you play at 2 and then play at 4, like 2 hours didn't pass. It is in-game time. So I think at the start, your character has like 400 hours. And so it's like, okay, you have to beat this game before your character's time runs out, or you will go unsighted, which you basically go like very feral and you have to escape to the woods. And a lot of the enemies that you fight in the game are unsighted people. Now you never get to see, like, you never have to have the moment where you fight like your own NPCs, which I thought was going to happen and it didn't. I was a little bit disappointed, but it really brings this neat mechanic of like you're exploring the world, not only because you want new items or you want to like progress the story or see cool dungeons. It's like, I want to find resources to keep alive a lot of these people. But it also ends up being this resource management of like, I can't have everybody live. There's a character very early in the game who is an older woman. And I think she has something like 36 hours. And it's like, she has the smallest amount of time of anyone. And I was like, well, I want to keep her alive because I really like this character. And as I kept doing that, I was watching other characters' time dwindle and dwindle. And I'm like, I'm putting all my resources into this one person who, like, I can't help anymore. I have to let her go. And it was so heartbreaking, but there's benefits of like befriending these characters, because you can say like, well, I just won't talk to anybody, and if they die, whatever. But if you do establish a connection with them, keep them alive, you get really great rewards that like help you throughout the game. And so that's like the whole main theme of the game, of like how you manage your life, what your life means, when are you ready to go. Oh, it's so wonderful. And if all of that, you go, that sounds great, but the whole time limit thing really stresses me out, which I get, you can turn it off. So it was one of the most recent games where I played it, and as soon as I beat it, I immediately started a new playthrough because I'm like, I want to play this game again. What a wonderful game. I think it's the first from the studio, and it's the first in a series, I believe. And so I can't wait to see what more comes out of this. And on my second playthrough, I played it without the worry of the time limit. So the resources that you collect still matter, because then you are giving these resources to different people to befriend them to get those good items. So it totally has a place. There is no wrong way to play. If you play it with the time limit, without it, it's not like you are playing the game wrong. So I highly recommend Unsighted. It is one of the biggest surprises of the year, or of last year for me. It's one of the biggest surprises of like current modern gaming. We'll say this generation of gaming. And I found this game all because of Xbox Game Pass. Then finally, I have a final game that a lot of people are probably aware of, but since it's available for Game Pass, I highly recommend that you give it a try and get your friend group to give it a try as well, if they have Game Pass. And that is Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves is an open world pirate game, and you can essentially do whatever you want. You can sail to find treasure, you can fight other players, fight enemies, pretty much just to gain fame in the pirate world. There is a bit of a story. There was a recent like expansion that involved the characters in the world of Pirates of the Caribbean, like the Disney series, including with Jack Sparrow showing up, who I believe is played by Johnny Depp. But it is just an exceptional game where you have a really fun sandbox to play in. Growing up, my friends would love to find games that we could just play around in. I remember we would play a lot of Smash Brothers and create our own little stories and have different objectives that we would create that the game did not intend us to do. Kirby Air Ride, that was another one that me and my friends did. And that was never my favorite way to play games. When I was little, I was very much a rules kid, and I was like, I want to play the game that the developer wanted me to play. But as an adult, and when you're thrown into like a sandbox like Sea of Thieves, and the whole game is just like, here you go, do whatever you want. It doesn't particularly matter. Because the rewards you get are a little bit inconsequential, but to me they matter. I'm like, no, I want to get more gold because I want to make my pirate look maybe more like me, or there's a new outfit or coat, and I'm like, ooh, I really want that. Like, oh, I want to save up enough money so I can buy this particular hurdy-gurdy that I can play like with my friends, or I just want to play so that I can, you know, just relax and have some good sailing fun. It's a really, really solid game that I highly recommend, and especially if a bunch of people that you know have Game Pass, this is one game that you can play, get together, and you can play it for a night, have a good time, or you can make it a weekly thing where it's like, no, we're going to grind out, we're going to, you know, really rank up our pirates in a fun, very lighthearted way. Because I love playing competitive shooters and other competitive games of the like, but it's just sometimes fun to be like, I want to play a game that's just hella goofy, and I can make some fun memories and just really play in a unique world. So there are 7 games that I fully recommend you play if you subscribe to Xbox Game Pass. This is such a unique model that I desperately want so many other companies to do. And we're getting there with Sony. They've released their new PlayStation Plus model that I would like to cover on Best of All. Nintendo has their Nintendo Switch Online that's dabbling in some areas like this, but this model of having games that are exclusive to the console, exclusive to the companies, or just available to play, I think is remarkable. To me, when we talk about the future of video gaming, to me, this is it. And this is what I want it to be. I like having things digitally. Yes, it's fun to have things physical and, you know, to go out and buy a game and get really excited for it. But it's also equally unique to have a catalog of games that is just available for you to play. It's great for the consumer. It's great for the developer. It is just, I see no downsides in Xbox Game Pass. Will there be too many like we have with streaming services? Most likely. But right now, it is the best deal in gaming. And as I said earlier, it's available for all of the Xbox family products and Windows-compatible PCs. Cloud streaming, look into it. It seems like xCloud is trying to be a thing. I'm not very well versed on how that part of it works. Maybe if it's the hot new thing since Game Pass, hot new thing since sliced spread, I'll do another episode of Best of All on it. I've talked about the whole thing without mentioning the price. So here it is. It is only monthly, and the standard version is $9.99, which is an amazing deal. You get hundreds of games for $10. And that is for if you have it for PC or if you have it for consoles. Or if you do the ultimate version, that's $15 a month, which is what I do. So I have access. I could boot up a game on my PC and play it through Xbox Game Pass, even though I play Xbox Game Pass on my Xbox Series S. Ultimate also adds Xbox's previous service, Live with Gold. That was their old thing. That was kind of around during the Xbox 360 era. That it seems like they're trying to phase out. It's a little bit confusing, but you get more free games if you subscribe to the Ultimate Pass. So find out what version is right for you. And if you're able to get your hands on a Xbox Series console, this is my favorite way to play games now. And I get so excited when new games come to Xbox Game Pass because it gives me the new opportunity to try something I may fall in love with, like Unsighted, or play something like Back 4 Blood that I was like, oh, that was neat. I'm glad I tried that out, which is another game that I'm not talking about. But it's a good game. Again, you can just check it out on Game Pass. So, I believe that's the What's What on Xbox Game Pass. If you have any other thoughts on the service, feel free to email us at mail@ScottyMeLad.com. And your letter might be even read on the show. I say might, it will definitely be read on the show because I get excited over fan mail. You can also stay up to date on all things Best of All on Twitter at ScottyMeLad. That is Scotty with a Y, MELAD. Hopefully you've taken something out of this episode and will give the Xbox Game Pass a shot. But best of all, you were a listener, and we at ScottyMeLad thank you. And that's my closer. Best of All was hosted and produced by Scott D. Forsythe, using the song Mia by Rolando Puchades from the album Canta as our intro and outro theme.